Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Kyle Schrum, Joe Courtney, Ashley Hicks. How's it going, people?
Going good.
Good. All right. Well, I will do the podcast overview today. I won't skip it, but I'm going to start with a Garage Gym Athlete shout out. So we have Zach Eason, spoiler alert, also the athlete of the week. He's actually tackling an event this weekend, I think. So it's called the Camp Shelby Norwegian Foot March, and it's a long foot march. And he mentions in the podcast, I don't want to spoil too much of the podcast, but
technically the episode would have already came out.
Yeah.
I thought it was coming out the same week as this.
Recording week. By the time this publishes, it was.
Oh, he's this week.
Like,
yeah, he's this week.
Like he's like in a couple days.
Like
yes.
So you guys have already heard it. I didn't spoil anything.
Yeah.
So you know what Zach Eason
You're late to
about?
the party. If you don't know, then you didn't listen.
Sorry, trying to talk in the future is hard. Anyway, he mentions listening to podcast episodes as he's tackling this stuff. And so, Zach, if you're listening to this episode right now as you're tackling the march, we're all going to give you one little tidbit of advice real quick. So I'm going to say kill comfort, because that's what you got to do for the entire event. Everyone else give Zach a little encouragement as he's rucking down the road.
Just
you
keep
can
swimming.
And
by swimming, I mean rucking.
Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Just go faster.
No, we're here to support you.
When you're about the halfway point, after you're getting really, really tired, start thinking of the best dad jokes that you can. Because they might be terrible, but you might start laughing to yourself. And then as we learned, smiling can help.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
Smiling helps. And what was that book we read where the guy swam around an island?
The Art of Resilience.
The Art of Resilience. So
my favorite
my favorite takeaway from that book was his reframes of very simple things. So that's another good advice as you're going through this. If you get a blister, it's not a blister, it's a
foot pillow,
skin balloon. I don't know.
A foot pillow. That's it.
Yeah. You just got to reframe all these things. So Zach, good on you, man. And good luck for the rest of your event. If you are listening to this during, that's awesome. But today, what we're going to be getting into is a study. The study is called Caffeine, Exercise, Physiology, and Time Trial Performance. And I'm going to stop there. Done in 2020. Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday is the book we will be covering today. And then the workout is called 1000, where we try and squeeze in 1,000 repetitions in under 30 minutes, kind of a challenge to see if you can actually do it. But before we get there, we're going to get into some updates, and I will start with Kyle, since he's wearing the red PR shirt.
That's right. Quarantine is over. Thank goodness. Not for the world, just in general, but just
basically
our
over
family.
For the world.
Our family specifically, we were a close contact of somebody who had COVID. And so we wound up none of us got it. None of us had any symptoms whatsoever. None of us were even a little bit sick, which is good, but does kind of make quarantine a little bit more unbearable when it seems like there's really no purpose to it at all. Like, I'm glad none of us got sick, but if we had gotten sick, I could have looked at it as, well, one of us is sick, so we probably should quarantine. But since none of us got sick, it was like, this is totally pointless. So reframing, like what
Jerred if you were asymptomatic
carrier,
you're glad you didn't spread it?
That's true.
You mean like wearing a mask to work out outside too, as well?
Here we
Oh,
go.
goodness.
Here we go.
Need a bunch of. Okay, we're rereading that book, by the way.
I need some reframing.
Anyway, so Hannah and the kids are back at school today, and I am back to my work routine and
Life is good.
training routine, and things are going well. So
That's great.
I'm gonna go with Joe.
Hello. So we made kombucha this past weekend. Mostly
Did you
Liz.
just say kombucha?
Is it kombucha? I don't.
It is kombucha, but it's okay.
That's an O,
I don't
not
like-
an A.
Yeah, I just do what I want. So we made the fermented stuff in a jar with a Scooby, whatever. Scooby. Yeah.
He's questioning
Can't-
everything
He
now.
has no idea what
it's
it
Now you're
a Scooby as well.
Yeah, you're making me tilt on all fronts.
Kombucha with a Scooby. Got it.
Yes, Scooby Doo. So we're on our second batch. We put it in jars, added some flavors to it, and now that's just gonna age for another 2 weeks. And then the second batch has I don't know what else is in it, and I think we're gonna on the second batch just let it sit for a while. We're in one of the bathrooms that we don't use. Yeah, ferment and possibly turn alcoholic. But the first batch we are not. We're just gonna drink them, and I have to burp them every day. So it's like my little project, my little chore.
Baby.
Yeah.
You literally like how do you burp
Yes,
it?
I pick the bottle up and I tap it to burp. No, you just break the seal and it, psst, and then you put it back.
Oh.
That's it. Not like a baby.
Yeah,
Not at all like a baby.
You don't
No,
ever
it's not
break
even
the seal
close.
on a baby.
Nope.
yeah.
No.
I don't know why anybody would trust me with that anyway.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
a good point.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not wrong.
So we used to
And-
make kombucha at my house for a while. Emily's
Yeah.
pretty good at it, and we also had a starter for like bread. That is what it's called, starter.
Sourdough,
These,
yeah.
Yep.
these things with bacteria, you just have to feed constantly. It's
Mm.
a lot. It's a lot of
taking care
work.
another child.
Yeah, you have to
Yes.
keep these things alive. It's very interesting. I found they're also similar, but yeah.
Yeah, I've pumped the brakes on any sourdough as of right now, but she's got some other bread and baking stuff going on. So at least that's fine. We'll do one fermented thing at a time. But we got to do sauerkraut next, though. We're just getting all the fermentation.
Look at you.
But I got a new gym present, and I'm wondering if you guys have any guesses of what it is.
A mask. Is that a knife? Was that a dagger to your heart?
Not amused.
That was my guess.
Was it the extra barbell that you left or something?
Kyle doesn't
Or
wanna guess.
kettlebell?
Not gonna.
You
go.
got your kettlebell back. That's a good guess too.
We're just gonna keep
sandbag.
throwing spears at you.
I thought this would be like low hanging fruit. I got a sandbagger. You guys just poking at me. So I got a
That's
150
awesome.
pound sandbag. And
Good.
I
We can
filled-
start testing out that sandbag track that we've been talking about.
Yeah, maybe. I filled it up yesterday, and I couldn't even completely fill up all of the inserts. I got 3 inserts for the 150 pound one from Rogue, and the third one I couldn't fill up all the way. So it's full to the max. I don't know how much it weighs. I'd have to I don't know how I would weigh it on a regular scale or just like hold it and step on the scale. I haven't figured it out yet. But this weekend we're going to play with the inserts and get each insert to weigh a certain amount. So
Yeah,
got that.
150 pound sandbag. That's the same one I have. Mine's not from Rogue. It's from Brute, I think was the company. They're
Mhm.
made in the USA and stuff. I think it's very similar. They're like a cylindrical bag with like 3 smaller like sandbag inserts. And the 150 pounds is serious. I thought that because 150 pounds on a barbell, I can do a lot of things with that. I could,
Yep.
But a 150 pound sandbag is very different. It's so hard to even get on my back, like to be able to like clean it over and everything. And if anyone figures out sandbag press, just let me know. I'd love to see how you guys do that.
I'm sure we'll have somebody.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have to buy sand over there, or do you just run down to the
I
beach?
was like,
It's free.
Well, I was actually about to say that.
Walks
It's
outside.
literally there's an empty lot across my street, and that's how we would take our paddle boards to go paddleboarding. So I just walked across the street, but I had to walk a little bit to like an area because there's a whole bunch of rocks and other crap in it. So I had to find like a nice sandy area, but it was like 50 yards.
Oh
So
man,
I still had to pick it
50
up, but
yards.
after it was full,
With
I
a
was like, all right, cool.
sandbag.
Yeah, I had to pick it up and take it back, and I was like, wow, this is way heavier than I thought it was going to be.
well, I mean, you're not going to the gym, so might as well get your workout in somehow, right?
I went 2 times this week.
What?
Uh-oh.
It was.
You broke
yeah,
your own rule.
I just had to get out of the house.
Yep. It happens.
All right, Ashley, what do you got?
I guess it's Ashley's turn.
Jeez.
I'll relinquish the throne.
Crushing solo parenting. Scott's so last week that Scott's gone, and I'm ready for him to be back. Not that it's like terrible when he's gone, you just kind of miss him, but anyways, it hasn't been too bad of a trip, and he's flying every day, so he's pumped. But I'm still crushing my only 2 strength days a week, and I really miss running. I know that's weird, but or like the workout that's coming up 1,000, like that's kind of another workout that I would just love to do, kind of thing, and just I miss kind of that stuff. But anyways, I also have to do a retest of one of the small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyways, have to redo it. There's just I guess
what, 12 minutes?
Yep, 12 minutes.
12 minutes. She's gonna do a breathalyzer. Only the YouTube viewers get to see it.
Also on BAC, see if she's actually had a few glasses of wine or something before.
Yeah.
She got some of Joe's kombucha. And
I did
Yeah.
his
Now she's a
kombucha.
little
and
That's how you
tipsy.
know it's the good stuff, the
Scooby.
kombucha.
you guys like Bahrainian bootleggers now? With your
Yeah.
kombucha?
Well, there's certain
That's the
fermented-
name he wrote on the
Yeah.
vessel.
That's it. Bahrainian bootleggers.
We're getting a t-shirt now.
Gonna buy
Bahrainian
that
bootleggers
domain.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
All right,
And
sorry,
I'm on
Ashley.
it.
We totally hijacked your update.
No, you're fine. I think y'all's version of my update was way better than my own. All right, Jerred, your turn.
Oh. Okay, so I'll make most of it quick. I have one awesome update, and the others are whatever. The weather's back to normal, but the Dallas area was destroyed by the weather. So my kids are virtual, not because of COVID or any other reason other than the school flooded. And so my kids are home until maybe mid-March, maybe later. We'll see. Very reminiscent of exactly what happened this past March. Just kind of funny timing. So yeah, that's going on, but so I'm building this office, right? Maybe we'll see. No, it's actually happening, but all of Dallas is, like I mentioned, broken. So all the trades you would get to come to work out, like, I don't know if this thing will be finished this year. Like, we're definitely building it. It's supposed to be done like in a month. We haven't even started. So, and now things are getting more backed up because people have more serious problems than we do. And anyway, it's not a complaint. It's just a crazy process, way different than I thought it was going to be, because apparently COVID affected construction, and now weather breaking an entire city, a large city at that. So yeah, that's my update on the office. I told people I'd periodically update. But the cool thing was, kind of cool, I was running on my True Form yesterday, and Eleanor came into the garage, and so I'm running facing this way. I heard her come in. I turn around, and it has like handlebars right on the thing, and I kind of grabbed the handlebar because running while you're not looking is a bad idea. When I grabbed the handlebar, I got the worst electrostatic shock of my entire life, like my entire life. And I want to explain to you how bad it was. The screen turned into like Mandarin characters. So it was like, it tells you your pace, it tells you your time, your distance, all these things, right? The electric shock was so bad that it screwed up the screen. I had to take all the batteries out and reset the whole machine for it to start working again. It wouldn't just like click back over. So that was pretty crazy. And I just wanted everyone to, that's like the second week in a row I've said something negative about the True Form. I don't know if that was True Form related, or maybe the weather's changing. I don't know why that was such a crazy shock, but it felt like an actual electric shock, and it ruined my monitor. Well, not permanently.
So at that point, do you like hold on tighter and stop running, but then you're going to keep shocked? Or do you let go and still run while you're kind of still shocked?
I kept running because that's what you should do. That's the answer.
That's always the answer.
Yeah.
You just keep running.
Why am I running on a treadmill? I'm supposed to not be running or taking it easy. I was going to do things on the bike. Well, I started doing a quarter Murph as a warm up and a cool down on the back front and end of my workout every day. So that's why I'm running. And
So you're doing a half Murph every day.
Yeah.
half Murph every day, 3 Murphs a week, but none of them are actually Murphs, so it doesn't count.
Okay.
Because they're all quarters.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
You just think about it though. You run a quarter mile, you do
I'm
some
thinking
pull-ups,
about it.
push-ups, and
What-
squats,
Yeah.
and then you run. That's basically that's just a good warm-up. Doesn't even take 10 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Unless you get shocked into oblivion by your
Well,
Did
that's
you
treadmill.
look at your heart rate data after that?
Ooh, I should. I mean, I have the data, right? I'd pull it up right now if it wouldn't take me too long to do that. But,
We'll wait.
No, then I have something for next week because,
Okay.
or maybe that's just going to be happening every day. I just will get these violent shocks, and maybe I'll be trained like a monkey to not run on the treadmill. Be like, okay,
that's
don't
what
go
you
over
need
there.
for
It
fat and
shocks
sugar.
you when you get on it.
Trained like a monkey.
Okay.
Oh.
Let's get into the study. We're talking about caffeine. And really, the point of this study was to look at how caffeine's performance effect, but in relation to two very specific genotypes. And look, guys, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know jack about genotypes. All right, I'm not a geneticist. I'm not a scientist. I don't even know what they are. So I'm good on energy systems and a lot of other things. I don't even know what the hell we're talking about in half this. And I could have researched and Googled to make you guys think I'm way smarter than I am. But the reason I didn't is because it didn't matter. The genotypes just didn't matter at all in the study. There was no specific genotype that had a better performance effect while they were training. So since the genotypes don't matter, I don't really plan on talking about them that much because it was kind of, they didn't, all they found was there was no performance effect or there wasn't an advantage or disadvantage to having a certain genotype and caffeine. So boom. But what did they do? They screened 66 cyclists, ended up with 40, and they were just testing them on a bunch of things with cycling. They had a couple different tests that they were doing, and they measured a bunch of things. They're doing a submaximal cycling test. It was about 20 minutes in duration. They started at 55 minutes after they had ingested either placebo or the actual amount of caffeine. And I always like to point out how much caffeine, because I always think it's so much anytime we talk about caffeine on the podcast. So they're doing 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, right? So I'm just over 185 pounds. That would be 420 milligrams of caffeine all in one shot, which I think I could handle that much over the course of a day. But if you just gave me like 420 milligrams right now, I would probably be pretty shaky. So quite a bit. And that is another thing. If you do look at the overarching body of literature on caffeine, it's always a lot. It's always a lot when they do it in studies. It's never like 150 milligram shot or 200 milligram shot. It's always like 400, 500, 550 milligram. So if you really want to take part in caffeine consumption and it making you better, just think about that. Overall, caffeine helped with everything, right? Like made you a better human. Two of the most researched ones that we talk about supplements are caffeine and creatine, and they both just work. So in the cycling test, the cyclists on caffeine outperformed the placebo. And there are a lot of little things that we can point out that were kind of odd and whatnot here and there, but I'd like to throw it over to you people and see what you thought.
So I think the point of the study was based on, there's two different types of people. One caffeine can work for them. The other one, they can't. So I think they were just trying to definitively say, hey, it works for these type of people and not these types of people. So if you find out which one you are, you'll know if caffeine works for you or not. But it works, according to this, to everybody still versus what it's thought to have, some people do and don't receive it well.
I read another study on just related or similar to this one, and it said that caffeine will affect your performance, give you better performance outcomes, even if you don't feel the effects of the caffeine. So I think that's really, if you're like, caffeine doesn't affect me, it's like, yeah, but you still might actually perform better just because you don't get jittery or feel more mentally sharp, or whatever you get from caffeine doesn't mean it's not going to help you physiologically, which I think is really interesting.
They kind of measured that in this as well, didn't they? They measured like knowledge. Wasn't there something in there where they tested people to see if they could correctly identify if they had the caffeine or the placebo? So it was like perceived knowledge of the supplement,
I know they
whether
had a
they knew they were
survey.
taking the caffeine or not.
forgot what it
But
was
that
about.
didn't have any effect on the physiological outcome anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Me personally, I do have caffeine before because I work out in the morning, but I can't have a full cup of coffee. So you're saying that, like, 400 milligrams or whatever, I have like a third of a cup of my vessel of coffee
I
before
love how
working
vessel's
out.
just a thing now.
I
It's
had
a
to throw it
thing,
in there.
man. It's a
Yeah.
thing.
So I had a third of a vessel of my pour over, which is still a decent amount. It's probably 50 grams, maybe milligrams or something. I don't know. I
A third of
forget
a
what.
vessel.
Yeah, because I think pour over is like 150 milligrams.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's about 50.
50.
We'll just say 50 milligrams or so, and that's kind of my cutoff point. With I know, because if I have a full cup of coffee, I'll either get I almost like start to feel tired if I have too much caffeine and not enough water, not enough anything else. And I notice that like throughout the day, if I just drink coffee and not hydrating, then I actually feel more tired than if I'm hydrated. So I'm almost surprised that, or it would have been good for the study to have like water be measured while they were doing this to see if how it would affect it. But I also liked their setup for the actual study. They had, after they gave them their caffeine, they had like an hour before they even started the workout, and then they did a 20-minute low minute warm up, like sub max, 10-minute rest, and then they started the actual test that they were measuring, which I thought was pretty good. Versus, hey, here's a bunch of caffeine, now jump on the hamster wheel and we'll see what happens. So that was cool. But other than that, like you said, there was a bunch of other things that it affected that we get into. But Ashley, what you got?
So I also drink caffeine in the morning, and I also work out in the morning. So I guess, it will affect me whether I feel the effects of it or not, like Jerred said. A couple of things that it helped that I was just interested in, it said it affected their heart rate, but in a good way. So
Yeah, I thought it was a mistake, but then I read the full text and it mentions it 2 separate times. And so I'm like, I guess this is not a mistake.
right.
Yeah.
So, because I would think that their heart rate would increase and not decrease. So it always made me think too, when you're working out and then your heart rate is able to come back down, is maybe that's also better for recovery when you're recovering from like a ride, especially as a cyclist. It also reduced the time of completion in the time trial. So when they were going for a time trial, they were able to get it done faster, and their power output was also increased, which was super cool to think about. And then I just said, I've never used caffeine to help like aid a workout. I said, I just drink my normal vessels of coffee prior to, but it shows that caffeine is effective, and, doesn't matter what genotype you are. Like we said, we have no idea.
If you know. Yeah.
Yeah, if you know what genotype you are, caffeine works for you. But the other thing I thought that was kind of cool was like the rate of perceived exertion, their RPE decreased. So something that could have been like a 7 or 8 on a scale of RPE of 10, maybe went down to like a 5 or a 6 or something. So that's kind of how I read it. I don't know, obviously, the scientific terms that they're using here,
To me, I feel like it's more of a mental thing, because I sometimes have it because I don't really need it to work out, but I think mentally my brain just has to wake up. I don't know if it's actually going to affect my performance. I don't have it to affect my performance to go for a run, but like if I just kind of need it to get my brain working.
Yeah. There was a time in my life where I had to have a pre-workout supplement before I would exercise. That was really just the college days. And I've so far removed it from that at this point. Like I do work out in the afternoon most of the day.
There it is.
Yeah, if you're on the YouTube, you just got to see Ashley do a breathalyzer. But if you're just listening to the podcast, you can just imagine it.
He's actually making balloon animals. Does anybody want a rabbit or make me a bicycle clown?
So anyway, I think most of the caffeine, since I have caffeine pretty early in the morning and I don't work out till let's say 3, it's mostly out of my system by that point, and I haven't used caffeine to augment performance, is what I'm trying to say. I haven't done that in a long time.
Right. And when you say mental, Joe, like for the caffeine, like for the people that took the placebo though, like they didn't have the caffeine. I don't know. Where were you going with that? Is I guess was my question. Like when you were like, does caffeine sorry.
Like for me to just to get the right motivation and mindset for training, I just feel like I need to wake up and go to actually think of yeah, I'm ready to go, ready to get this workout in. Versus if I'm just waking up, I'm just I'm gonna just sit on the stool for a little bit and just hang out and see what happens.
Thinking
Yeah,
stool.
it just gets me moving. Yeah,
thinking stool.
Yeah,
that's great.
All right, I'm done. Kyle, what you got?
I mean, not much now. Pretty much all of it. I would say, first of all, time. If you're gonna try to use caffeine, I haven't used caffeine to bolster performance either. I've talked a lot about caffeine. We've talked a lot about it, but I've talked about how I don't really feel like I need it. I mean, I drink coffee every day, but I don't feel like I drink coffee because I like coffee. I like the taste of it, and
better now though.
It's better now.
I was just about to say.
It's better now. And I'm getting,
before,
I'm definitely getting more caffeine now with the coffee that I drink than I used to. I used to just drink, decaf from a Keurig. Which
Can you imagine how much Keurig coffee you would have to ingest in order to get 400 milligrams of caffeine?
That'd be like a box of Keurig shots.
This is just today, this one. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't still even today don't really feel like I need it. I just like the taste of coffee, and so I drink it every day. But I would say if you're going to try to use caffeine to bolster your performance, make sure you time it properly around your training session. So it's kind of like what Jerred said. He drinks coffee in the morning, doesn't train until the afternoon. I'm the same way. I drink it in the morning. I don't train till the afternoon. Maybe it affects me. I haven't tested it at all. Maybe it doesn't, but I would say most of it is gone by then. So I would say if you're going to try to use caffeine to bolster performance, make sure you're timing it around your training, where if you're going to work out in the afternoon, make sure you have a little bit 30 to 60 minutes beforehand, just so that it's in there. I would also say beware of the other effects of caffeine, because caffeine doesn't just, help with your performance. Be mindful of how caffeine affects you individually. And this is kind of what we say about all supplements, all nutrition advice that we give. I feel like we say this, we have this point every single time. It's very individualized. And so we can have studies on all these kinds of things, but if it's going in your body, it's probably going to affect you in some way personally to you, then it's going to affect other people. And so just kind of be aware of all the other effects that caffeine has on you, because it's going to affect you in a different way than most people. Not necessarily negatively, but just if you're going to start using it, then just be mindful of all of those things. Like for instance, I used to get migraines all the time. It's weird. I haven't had a migraine since I started doing the.
Could have been the quality of coffee.
Could have been the quality of the coffee I was drinking. It could have been, it was just really poor quality stuff.
Keurig gives headaches. Kidding.
Migraines and headaches are not the same.
You're
airtime Keurig has gotten is just off the charts.
Hashtag not a sponsor. Definitely not a sponsor. Anyway, I would just say time your caffeine consumption if you're going to use it for training, and also just if you're going to use it for training, be aware of the other effects that it has on you. Just as general advice.
Yeah, I know it affects like Emily and I are a great example. I could probably drink caffeine, or let's just say coffee, for a majority of the day, and it's not going to affect me too much. Emily can have half a black tea in the morning and not sleep that night. It's just we're very different. And it has a big impact on her. It really affects her sleep. That's a big reason she doesn't drink it most of the time, because she really is not tired at all and so that's something you gotta think about. If it affects you that, if you're that sensitive, more like Emily would be, then yeah, I probably wouldn't try a 420 milligram shot, but me, I would try it. I do think I would be a little jittery and stuff, but I think ultimately my body would handle it just fine. The only other point I had from the study was that I have not read this before, that the caffeine ingestion increased blood lactate levels.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that caffeine could do that on its own. So we talked about zone 2. Really, if you start to increase your blood lactate, you're getting bumped out of zone 2. And this is where you're going to hit lactate threshold, depending on how fit you are, whether or not you can utilize that lactate for energy and stuff. But if you're trying to do something lower intensity or, zone 2, like we have in our training, I would stay away from the caffeine that day. If you are someone who drinks caffeine before workout, I mean, drinking, other than when this is the only study I've ever read that said that the heart rate decreased when people drank caffeine. So
Right.
I don't know that to be true. So I'm just going to pretend like it's not until I read another study that says the same thing. But I would not drink coffee before, or any caffeine before I hit a zone 2 workout, because I don't need anything else affecting my heart rate in any way before trying to knock out a frustrating zone 2 workout. And furthermore, increase blood lactate levels, which is the main reason we're trying to do zone 2. Like, we're not just trying to keep our heart rate in a zone for fun. Like, we're trying to not hit those blood lactate levels so we can burn more fat and we won't have to switch to different energy sources. So don't drink the caffeine. I mean, really, I feel like it can affect your training in a major way. It helps with your performance, but I wonder how much the blood lactate increase. I should dive into that more. But anyway, keep that in mind for your zone 2 work primarily. And my only takeaway was the amount, or the main takeaway for Garage Gym Athlete is the amount, which was 5 milligrams per 1 kilogram of body weight. And like Kyle said, about 1 hour before is when you want to take it. So yeah, that's it. All right, we'll awkwardly segue into The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. So I have a little synopsis here. It's a modern take on the ancient philosophy of Stoicism, which helps you endure the struggles of life with grace and resilience by drawing lessons from ancient heroes, former presidents, modern actors, athletes, lots of different people in this book. And that's it. And that's kind of my, what is the book? It's really, Ryan Holiday has taken Stoicism in multiple different books now and made it more mainstream and popularized it again. These things do exist, but if you've ever read any of the original Stoic philosophy, I mean, it reads similar to like the Bible at times, where it's just kind of hard to fully comprehend without like reading like a couple sentences at a time and stopping and trying to think about what that meant. So I think what he's done is awesome, by making Stoicism more popular. But we can dive into more of the book. That's not my takeaway or anything. It's just kind of what the book is about. Who wants to go first? And we got to we need some sort of like Garage Gym Athlete rating for these books. Like, that's something we need to start. Like, we give this one 5 barbells and 2 kettlebells, or I don't know. But
let's do like a scale from 1 to 10. Like, keep it simple.
It's not
That's
on
not
theme
fun.
though.
We'll work on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have that ready.
All
Right, thoughts on the book?
But by next review. Okay, so I'll start it off because I think I'm going to take this a different direction than the other people will. I think the point of this book, honestly, is really, really good. The main point, if you boil it down, and it was actually one of my favorite points of the art of resilience, and one of the things that I brought up, and that is about perception and perspective of what you're doing, and when bad things happen, and how to reframe your perspective and state of mind to get past certain things. I think that if you take that, just think about every point in the book, that is the main takeaway, and it is a great point, and I think more people need to do that. But I think most of his examples fell flat to me. I don't think he did all that well in explaining them, or they kind of got jumbled up in a little bit to me. And I'm going to try not to rant about it too much, but like one of his examples when he went from Rockefeller to Amelia Earhart, they were contradictory to me. When he mentioned Rockefeller, he praised him for not doing something when he had an opportunity, but then Amelia, he was like, yeah, she took that opportunity even though it sucked, and look where she is now. And those, like, sometimes if, like, I think he had a great point and what he wanted to boil this down to for like you're saying, bringing stoicism to people, making it relatable. But I think choosing the biggest names that like Google pops up with kind of makes it hard to relate to me, or at least to me.
That was
But
kind of
some
my
of the-
critique of the art of resilience. It's because if you think about when the authors write these books, they didn't you stumble across the life story or scientific
Yeah.
studies, 100 of them, and they're all of a sudden like, maybe I should write a book on stoicism. They start with stoicism, and then they're like, I'm going to go try and find as many examples as I can and twist, what is true to what I'm trying to write about. So I do think that when authors are using examples like that, it can get lost.
Yeah. And I guess I see what you're talking about now with our resilience. But, when somebody's like, hey, look at what Steve Jobs did. If he can do it, you can do it. It's kind of hard to pick up on it. It's kind of like when you tell your kid, hey, you need to go to college. And they're like, well, Jeff Bezos didn't, or something like that. And you're like, well, that's just like 1% of the 1% example that you're giving me. Anyway, if you focus on the main point of the book while you're going through it, I think that is the most important thing to do. And it is super short. So like I read this thing in 2 days, or listened to it in 2 days. So, and it is a fantastic point, just to keep that in mind. But to me, the examples kind of fell flat and were hard to relate to. But I will pass it off to Kyle, who might have some more productive things to say.
So I kind of just a word about the writing style of this book. I made up a word to describe it. I described it as blurby. So like there's a lot of blurbs in it that you can take out to just, and it at times it kind of seems like he's just kind of repeating a blurb after a blurb after a blurb. And so like this is something I can take out and just put it on a sticker or put it on a poster or something like that. But kind of like what Jerred said, it reminded me of reading like something like an ancient source, something like what he's talking about from Stoicism, the writings of Stoicism. And if you read the Bible, a lot of people treat the Bible that way as well. There's just little verses or passages that you can take out and boom, I'm going to use this today as just kind of my focus. And so when really the whole thing should go together, I mean, it's hard to know the entire Bible all at once. I understand that, but understanding the entire point of the work itself instead of just focusing on little blurbs here and there. So the blurbs are helpful to kind of remember points, but to understand the entire overarching point is more important, I think. So if that's your kind of book, then this is going to be really good for you. A couple of things that I took out of it, he mentioned the process. He specifically mentioned Nick Saban. And so I'm not a huge fan of Nick Saban because I'm a Tennessee fan, but I do respect the crap out of him as a coach. I think he's unbelievable as a coach. And I think obviously the process that he uses is really, really admirable and obviously very successful. But Ryan kind of talks about this of he doesn't teach or coach his people to focus on the end goal, which for a college football team is winning the national championship, right? He doesn't focus on winning the national championship. He focuses on winning this drill. He focuses on winning this play in practice. He focuses on doing these reps in the gym, during your training sessions, all of that kind of stuff. And for college athletes, there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of things that they need to get right every day. And that's what you focus on. You focus on what's right in front of you. Here's a task right in front of you. And all of these tasks together, you set the goal of winning the national championship, but then all of these tasks together that you focus on every single day, those all add up to achieving the goal, as opposed to just always focusing on the goal. And that's what I'm striving for, and kind of losing sight of all of the little stuff that goes into that. And so that's kind of what I really enjoyed that. And one little blurb, if I could take out from it, he said, the process is about finishing. It's about finishing the task that's in front of you. And so every day, that's the process. Here's the goal, the ultimate goal that I want to achieve, but then the process is all the daily stuff that you do to get up to that point. If only someone would like write a book or like a journal or something that would help people like focus on their daily stuff. Oh wait, we have one of those. Never mind.
Where can you buy it? Nobody knows.
No one knows.
It's actually, if you go to the store at Garage Gym Athlete, it's there. We're just currently sold out. Yep. We'll have more soon.
One more thing that I took out of it is one of the big points. One of the names of the chapters actually in the book is something bigger than yourself. And that's something that I really try to stick to, just personally. But he's talking about how everything that you do needs to be done with a higher purpose in mind. It just doesn't just need to be about you. It doesn't just need to be about your success or your achievements or anything like that. The things that you do should be focused towards others. And of course, that's a big part of my faith as well. As a Christian, that's what the Bible teaches as well. It's all about living for other people and trying to make sure other people achieve what they need and what they want, and taking care of others' needs and putting them more important than yourself. But that's what I've also found with just goals just in life is, if you're only focusing on achieving something for you, or you're achieving something because of what you get out of it, eventually, I mean, that'll work for a little while, but eventually that's going to come crashing down, because at some point you're going to realize that you are not a universe in and of yourself. You're not an island. There are other people around you. There are other things around you that you need to support you. And so if it's all about you, eventually all of that falls apart, because there's nothing else to hold it up. And so that's kind of what he's talking about is, yes, focus on these obstacles and focus on the path and focus on the process, but your inherent motivation should not just be selfish. It should be pointed towards others as well, or pointed towards some purpose that's higher than you. So I really enjoyed that as well. So just focusing on the process and making sure everything is driven towards a purpose that's bigger than yourself. I think those couple of things are really helpful for people to just be mindful of. Ashley.
So I won't overdo what, Joe and Kyle have already said, but basically he kind of breaks it down into 3 disciplines. He talks about perspective, he talks about action, and then he talks about your will. And we've talked about perspective at length. But what I loved about it too was he also talked about, like, this isn't just something that you will hit and then you'll never have an obstacle again. Like, this is for you to learn something to then apply it when other obstacles come. You're not just going to, never have an obstacle in life ever again. So hopefully that this is something that you can take a mind shift and then apply it to anything else that potentially is, stuck between a rock and a hard place that, you come across in life in general. I loved that they talked about right and effective action. Like, when you come across a problem, don't just, throw darts at it, just randomly try to figure things out. Like, he talks about having a plan, and how to actually, like, stick to that plan and try to take steps towards the goal that you ultimately have, and have a game plan, not just like diving in, is what I said. And then he talks about persistence and flexibility within that too, which I loved that. Like, if something isn't working, try to be flexible about it. Try to shift something and try to do something else, even if it's, again, outside your realm of comfort. So overall, I agreed with Joe a little bit. Like, there was a lot of storytelling in this book, but at the end of the day, I also agree with Kyle. You need to take home, like, the big overarching theme, and I agree with the points in the book. So yeah, Jerred, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a good book. I think you're either going to kind of like Ryan Holiday's style of writing or you're not. My favorite quote of all time is by Ben Franklin, and it's either write something worth reading or do something worth the writing. And I feel like I'm not saying Ryan Holiday hasn't done much. I don't know much about the guy, but he makes his point through other people. Like, almost, I think, 0 personal experience. Like, I think he talks about himself a little bit, like, in the beginning. I'm not saying he hasn't experienced these things, but that is more the approach. He's writing something worth reading, but he's not necessarily focused on doing something worth the writing. And those are 2 very different types of books. Like Jocko's books, all he did something, he's telling you what he learned. David Goggins, here's his life story. Art of Resilience guy. I did something awesome. Here's what it's more about. I did something awesome, and I'm either going to write about myself or, you can pull examples. And I think that in this realm, because I read a lot of these types of books, I prefer when the person's done something as opposed to you telling me about historical examples. And I don't dislike, I use historical examples in my book, Killing Comfort. So it's not like this big critique. I just trying to say you either like or dislike it based on what type of books you generally gravitate towards. I think anything on Stoicism is good. My biggest takeaway, similar to everyone here, is the perception. We cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. That's it. And I think if you don't figure that out in life, you're going to get beat up pretty bad, because a lot of crappy things can happen in life. And really that's the only guarantee, right? Is that a lot of crappy stuff is going to happen. Some good things are going to happen too, but there's no way we get out of this thing alive. And that's crappy already, And so these are things that you need to think about and prepare yourself for. So I think Stoicism is great. I think his book, he also put together the Daily Stoic, which is like a daily devotional type thing. It's like a small passage and then his explanation of it. I think if you really want to dive into Stoicism, that's a great place to do it as well. If you need bigger picture ideas, any of the 3 books he's written are all about Stoicism in one way or another. I think it's just a good way to live your life, being more stoic. And a lot of people are stoic in nature without having looked at the writings of Ryan Holiday. Like, I think I was generally a more stoic person. My dad's like stoic as hell. Like, it's just kind of the people embody these things. And I feel like the previous generations were way more stoic, just like my dad's generation, my grandpa, like those people were just really stoic from life, not from reading anything from Marcus Aurelius. You know what I mean? So a lot of people already have that. But I think it's a good thing. If you do struggle with that, being a little bit more stoic, then I think you should really dive into this stuff.
Then after you read the book, you can go watch some Gladiator. It'll make
There you go.
happy.
What?
Or you could read the book.
Marcus Aurelius. Gladiator. Okay. Never mind.
Is it
I
a book?
mean-
I don't.
Is Gladiator a book? I don't think so. I think it was
Sure,
just
there's
a movie.
books about
Just a movie.
I
gladiators.
tried.
I'm sure
I
we
thought
can find
everything
one
was
for
a
you.
book, and then it was a movie.
No, no.
Because then I can
No.
hear people like you all say, "I think the book is better," and I'll be like, "Yeah, well, I'm never going to read the freaking book." So,
Well,
Ooh,
right
yes,
here,
spicy
the movie is
today.
better because the book doesn't exist,
There you go.
and the movie is better than a lot of other
yes,
movies.
it's the one time it's worked in my life.
Yeah.
Well, I'm slightly jealous of the fantasy readers, is what I was trying to say.
Uh-huh.
Oh, jealousy!
I
now.
know I
Uh-huh.
can't. If the book is actually better, like that's a factual statement, not just I'm trying to sound cool because I read books type
Not trying
statement.
to flex. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a flex like, oh, I read,
Nope.
and it's more like, no, this is actually better than the movie.
Mm.
I'm jealous of that mental visualization capacity you have that I don't have. I read a book and my brain sees words. It doesn't see what's happening. And this is why I don't read fantasy books, but I would love
Technically
to.
correct.
The
I would
books
love
you read,
to-
they don't turn into movies.
Yeah. No, unless something really bad happens. Yeah. All right. We'll get into the workout, Kyle.
All right. So the workout this week is 1,000. And if you want to know what 1,000 is, here you go. 10 rounds or 30 minutes of 25 pull-ups, 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, 25 squats. The point is to get 1,000 reps in under 30 minutes. The pull-ups you are allowed to kip, but that's pretty much it. That's about as simple, not easy as Meet Yourself Saturday can get. 10 rounds or 30 minutes of those 4 things. All body weight. If you are a competitor, add a vest. If you're not a competitor, add a vest if you want to try to be a competitor. But we
Is
don't
that written
recommend
in the
it.
workout? Wear a vest?
Mhm.
Are you just, wow.
No, I'm not.
I don't even
I'm
remember
not
that.
making that up. It's in
That
there.
sounds stupid with a vest on. Goodness.
It's in there.
What was I thinking?
I don't know.
Okay,
I
I'm
don't know
going
what
to
you were
start
thinking.
with this
I'm
isn't
thinking
all
I'm
of
not
my
doing
advice. This is not all of my advice, but I want to just mention, since you just briefed it, it's a time cap, like a hard time cap, and it should
Right.
be for safety reasons. I say this in the athlete brief as
volume.
well. Like if you want to do broken arrow and you keep going, or like whatever, some of the other ones we have, that volume's not as crazy, right? Like it's crazy, but it's not as crazy. This one, if it's going to take you an hour and a half to complete 1,000 reps, that's going to be some serious pain, maybe hospital pain, because you can get down to breaking down your muscles, then poisoning your kidneys. So you don't want to get to that level. If you are trained enough to do this in under 30 minutes, then 1,000 repetitions is not going to break your body down. But if you're fairly untrained and you're like, yeah, this is a great one to start, and it does take you 90 minutes to do it, you could be in some serious hurt. So don't do it. Actual safety reasons, not like you're going to be sore the next day. So that's one of my tips.
Pace?
Just say go fast. And I also say when it comes to pull-ups, I would say beware of kipping.
The rule on kipping is only kip if you can do like 20 strict.
Yeah, I personally, I don't really recommend anybody kip pull-ups. Really, that's just me. I don't know that
ever for any reason.
Ever. I think you should just
Do you
do the pull-ups
on Murphs?
Can you kip?
No.
There you go.
Can't.
I thought he had like a real reason behind it.
I think there's a lot of, I also kind of think there's that, I don't know, maybe it's just the whole CrossFit thing, and that I feel like some people think that kipping is the way to do pull-ups. But you should never start there. Like you need to be able to do pull-ups the right way before you go there. And I just think some people see kipping, okay, I'm going to kip the pull-ups. And it's like, no, like kipping is like, that's an advanced thing. So like, I don't think most people are there where they need to be doing kipping pull-ups. So that's just me as a coach.
I just said 20 strict. So that's quite a bar. I agree with it. Just since we're talking about the kipping, I agree that you shouldn't kip unless you can do a lot of strict pull-ups. My overall view on kipping is like Murph, and the reason I bring it up is just we're talking metabolic response. Murph strict, I don't want to say it's not a hard workout. It's just different. It's like doing a bodybuilding session. I would put that in the same level of hard, because when you're doing strict pull-ups, there's just not as much of a metabolic response, because there can't be, because you can't just knock out, sets of 25 or sets of 50. Most humans can't. And so the reason I think kipping can be advantageous is only that reason. Is Murph kipping gets really nasty really fast because of how fast you can move when you're kipping. So I will say that fits, but I'm in agreement with Kyle that you should be really good at strict pull-ups before you start kipping, because if you're using kipping as a crutch because you can't do pull-ups, you're going to end up with an injury, and that's not what you should do. So in this workout, feel free to go down to ring rows, something that you can knock out faster if you can't kip, so you can hopefully still make that time cap.
My tip will be a nod to Ryan Holiday, and that is ego is the enemy.
There you go.
So I think you need to, with the going as fast as possible, I think you can go as fast as possible on the air squats and the sit-ups, but I think you're going to have to watch your pacing for muscle fatigue on pull-ups and push-ups, because if you go as fast as possible in those, might be round 4 or 5, and you're just like, yep, I can do one push-up at a time now. And then you're just going to fizzle out. So that's one thing to be aware of for that. Break them up early if you need to. Which I would if I was doing this.
Figured. I just said choose the correct scales. So on top of having to break stuff up, Jerred talked about ring rows. If you have to do knee push-ups, do knee push-ups. Make sure that you're doing things correctly. And I said body weight, but sweet Moses, you're going to be sore the next day. This workout's just going to make you sore. And then for a good wine pairing, I said I would do something with a good beat. So obviously my go-to.
Mortal Kombat soundtrack?
Dude, okay, yes, Mortal Kombat soundtrack. Something with a good beat, EDM. I said 90s hip hop, or even go crazy and go like old school, Janet Jackson or Paula Abdul. What? The boys are looking at me like, no, thank you. Anyways, that's my wine pairings for today.
NF just came out with a new song this week.
Yes, he did.
I heard it. It's good.
And it's awesome.
And which means a new album is right around the corner.
Dun, dun, dun.
If you like NF.
Like Jerred.
Yeah, I'm a fan. It's rap music I can listen to with my kids around. It's good. Most rap is not like that. Oh, here we go. Get another balloon animal.
It's 30 minutes.
Okay.
We're gonna start measuring the length of the podcast by how many.
Yes.
I should just do this every time.
Test Ashley has to do.
All right. So my tips are pretty much all gone at this point. I did want to ask you guys a question. So I mentioned kipping and I mentioned time cap were my two biggest things to just take note of. Sit-ups, though. I want to know how you feel about sit-ups in a workout like this. And it's similar to the EO3 5K. How should the sit-ups be performed in your opinion? Can you reach overhead and use a little momentum to get your body up? Or should you cross your arms, touching collarbone, more military style, coming up and elbows touching the knee, or up as high as you can every time? How do you guys feel about sit-ups in a workout like this and the EO3 5K?
This is an Air Force PT test. I'm not doing elbows to knee.
Yeah. And I feel like
but they're more strict.
They are. It can be, but I feel like too, like depending on where people put stuff, like I've seen people do that sit up and it's not quite an actual sit up. Like you want to actually go your back flat, right? And then sit all the way up. So what I do is, yes, I use the momentum, but at the same time, when I'm crunching my abs, I'm sitting up and my hands have to touch the feet of my, like whatever I'm doing, even if my knees are up or if I'm butterflied out, have to go all the way back and have to come all the way and touch my feet, because then I'm actually doing a full sit up.
Yeah, full range. And I feel like those butterfly sit-ups, my abs actually feel it. When I do the Air Force PT test, it's like my hip flexors are just on fire, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And it's terrible.
Yeah.
I would also say that I don't know where I got the whole vest thing, because now I'm looking at it and I don't see vest written anywhere. When I looked at this earlier, I swear that it said competitor wear a vest, but now I'm seeing that it's not there, and I'm thinking about doing sit-ups with a vest on. That's crazy.
Well, that's the first thing that I was like, why would I do that?
I was like, yeah, so.
And then the second thing I was thinking was, I've never done this with a vest. So
throw the vest out. I don't know what I was looking at earlier that said put a vest on. It must have been a different workout that I was scrolling through to try to get to this one. But don't do sit-ups with a vest on. And I won't be briefing any more workouts.
So this is like when your spouse does a
option.
chore and sucks at it, and they're just like, well, I can't do this anymore because I sucked at it last time.
No, I can never brief again. Remember the vest incident?
Wasn't my strategy at all.
Okay, so we are okay with the kipping sit up. And that was kind of
It's not kipping.
What? Nobody wants to be like deemed as someone who kips anything. I love it. Start with Kyle, now just spread to Joe and Ashley. It was good.
Hey, I don't mind kipping.
When I do sit-ups in training, so I'm not trying to do them for speed, I reach my hands out behind. I touch, so back flat, like Ashley's saying. I think that's very important. But then I don't bring my hands forward, like throw them forward up to my knees. I bring them back down my body, like you're tracing your body. Like along the rib cage, and then I sit up, because that's going to make your abs do all the work. You could do that in this workout if you want to, but you might only get to like round 3 and your abs might quit. But that's a better way to exercise your abs when you're doing sit-ups if we ever program them in general here. So get it done. Be strict. All right, we're out. Kyle, you wanna lead us out here, or you want me to take it, or?
The one sponsor that we have for the podcast is the Garage Gym Athlete community. Ooh. And you guys are the greatest. You're the best community of any community anywhere for any reason. Best community. If you are a part of that community, thank you for being part of the community. If you're not part of the community, why are you not part of the community?
What's wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? You need to join up. And the way to join up is to go to garagegymathlete.com. Sign up for a free 14-day trial. That's right. You get to be a part of the community for free for 14 days. And we're not even going to tell you how much it costs, because you're going to throw whatever you want at us, or whatever we want at us, when you see how good the community is. So 14-day free trial, garagegymathlete.com. Go do it. Be part of the community and officially sponsor the podcast as part of the community.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.